It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Locked On Lakers podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin. I'm joined by Pete Zayas. Pete, I find myself counting down the days to the season in a way that I don't know that I've ever. It's such a unique experience where I'm still, even knowing that we are 3-ish days away from the Lakers' first preseason game. It's still like I can't fathom it. My brain isn't letting me do it.
I'm not going to be there either until I actually see them take the floor on Friday and see some of the new guys in the Lakers jerseys and just the team in general in Lakers jerseys. But yeah, training camp has started. All of the media availabilities are through Zoom, and it's kind of this weird intangible thing where seeing it on Spectrum in a few nights, that's going to be the first time it's like, oh yeah, this is actually happening.
It's kind of too bad that, because this is another one of those teams that you wish you could actually see in person on media day.
Yes.
Like, wouldn't it be nice to see like the starting group, whatever it might be, whether, or just all of these guys, Dennis Schroeder, what would he look like in another Gasol in a Lakers uniform, all of that. Like this is one of those moments where you kind of realize, oh man, no media day kind of really sucks this year.
And this is when we're most starving to see that new team. Like the official Lakers Twitter account tweeted out some clips from yesterday's scrimmage, and like the last play was LeBron driving on the baseline from the right side and skipped it across to the opposite corner to Marc Gasol, who hit a corner three. And I was just like, of stretch five, that, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, all the new toys, all the new, elements of this team. We're starving for that. And so we would normally be getting scrimmage footage. It's one of the only times of the year where they have legit scrimmages is before, because everybody's resting their bodies, right? And so I miss the whole pomp and circumstance of a normal media day, training camp, scrimmages, everything that comes with it. I miss it.
It's a little different. Like, it isn't like Ronnie Price would be waiting for us on media day. It wouldn't be any, I wouldn't have cared. I never cared about media day previously, or being able to get to see some of the guys in the uniform for the first time on media day. I've never cared about that with bad teams, but for some reason this year, even more than last year, right? Because last year there was still, I guess, getting to see Anthony Davis in the uniform.
Yeah, Anthony Davis. I was like standing right in the corner of like where the tunnel. I knew he was going to come out for exactly that reason. The AD thing by itself was enough for me.
Were you just like vibrating? Like, were you just so happy you were literally bouncing around media day?
It was on my birthday too. Man, last year's media day was on my birthday. So yes, I was, and kind of peeking around, and you know how bad I am with technology, and I had
how I had promised that around a toaster. Like, how were you?
I was taking pictures because I don't really know how to use my phone that well. I was like zooming all the way in to get as like tight of a shot as I could on the new guy, but it made it all grainy. So I'm posting these to Twitter, and much younger, more technologically fluent people than me are like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what is wrong with your camera? Yeah.
Taking pictures with the Motorola Razr still. Did you still have the Razr at that one, or did you have the iPhone by then? I guess you had.
I had the iPhone by then. It was not a potato. It was operator error with how bad those came out.
Oh, well, it's too bad we aren't going to get that. It is kind of funny, or it's fun. You said you used the analogy or the metaphor a second ago, getting to open gifts up. I guess we get to open Christmas gifts. Like, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's basically around that time. So here we are. Today's show. So we had planned on doing the player preview series, but Pete, being the professional he is, wants to be prepared for some reason. I don't know. So we're gonna kick that off on to preview the Friday show as a part of getting ready for the game and finding out more of who all is going to play and all of that good stuff. So that'll be for Friday's show. Today's show, there were a couple questions that people asked specifically for Pete or for Pete and my input together. So we're going to answer a couple of those. we'll start with this one, and I think it's going to carry us over to the second segment. So I'm just going to go ahead and lob the question, and then see what we think on the other side of the break. But where is it? Oh, here we go. So Tyson Chandler 783, and again, we're answering this one again, but it's a really fun question. Hey, Anthony and Pete, the Lakers are so deep that they could be split in half and still both look like playoff teams. My question is, who do you pick to win in a 5v5 scrimmage? Caruso, Wesley, LeBron, Morris, and Gasol versus Schroeder, KCP, Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, and Anthony Davis.
Oof.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one. Let's go ahead and take a quick second here and gather our thoughts, and then, get back to what these lineups would look like against each other. Maybe at some point we could draft against each other and just go, you draft, I draft, you draft, I draft, and then see which teams, who says which team is better. But for now, we're going to go ahead and answer this one on the other side of the break. Today's show is brought to you in part by Built Bar. Head on over to builtbar.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll save 20% off your next order of the best protein bars you will ever get. And you thought they were great before? Well, check out these new flavors. Caramel brownie, cookies and cream, cherry barcia. You can maybe guess which one I may or may not have had a role in naming. I didn't, but still, that's, if I was going to name a protein bar, that's what it would sound like. Lemon almond cheesecake, carrot cake, apple almond crisp. You get that in addition to coconut almond, raspberry, orange, toffee almond, double chocolate, salted caramel, all of those great flavors. And they are just as refreshing, just as filling as they have ever been. And like I said, you can still continue to get them for 20% off your next order. So every time you hop on there, go to builtbar.com, use promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, and you will get 20% off every order that you put in on that website. And I just can't understand why you would ever stop ordering such a great product. So one more time, if you're looking for a gift for your family member, or you're looking for a stocking stuffer, it's a great stocking stuffer. Head on over to builtbar.com, use promo code LOCKEDON, and you will get 20% off your next order. One more time, builtbar.com, promo code LOCKEDON.
We live in a world of fees. Airlines, hotels, food delivery, and especially car dealers all charge excessive last-minute fees. When you want something badly enough, it feels like your only choice is to pay up. But what if you had a choice to take a stand instead? At Carvana, we believe in treating you better. With zero hidden fees, you can drive off without feeling ripped off. That's what it means to live fearlessly with Carvana.
All right, so who you got? Alex Caruso, Wesley Johnson, Braun.
Wesley
Markeith.
who?
What'd I say? Oh God, did I say Wesley Johnson? We were talking about previous media days, and oh hey, there's a scar. Look at that.
Yeah. Hey, there's therapy for that. Yeah.
All right, so Alex Caruso, Wesley Matthews, Braun, Markieff Morris, and Marc Gasol going up against Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, and Anthony Davis.
That's a great question. I'll go with Anthony Davis's group. I think that they're a lot faster than that first lineup. I think that the speed and athleticism of Harrell and AD would be challenging for and Schroeder would be challenging for Gasol and Morris. Mm-hmm. I think that that's where the biggest kind of but putting it that way really
it's wild.
Both of those teams provided, say, an average bench behind them. Both of those teams make the playoffs in the East, right? If those are the starting lineups.
Maybe in the West, I still think,
or maybe in the West, maybe
sure. In either conference, because the bottom of either conference isn't particularly strong.
Yeah, Yeah, that's probably a low-level playoff team if you split the team in half on and had an average bench, right, to
Right.
fill out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's insane.
Who do you have in that matchup? It's very close. I could go either way, but I'd say the AD team.
So I said that it would depend on the kind of game that they were playing, right? So if this was a scrimmage and it was like a pickup game, I would probably go with the Schroeder team. But if it was more of like an NBA type game, I would go with LeBron and Gasol's ability to get shots out to Wesley and to Markieff. But like, either way, if those teams played against each other 100 times, you're talking about like a 53-47 or 51-49 type difference. It's very, very close.
It would be a fun matchup that's stylistically different for sure, right? Because you got LeBron and Mark's passing, and kind of you'd have a better set offense with LeBron, but you'd have more athleticism and speed on the other end. It'd be a lot of fun to watch.
And it really kind of shows all the various combinations, right? Because you could ask this question like 33 different ways.
That's right. Different combinations of those 500%.
You could, swap if you just switch Schroeder and Caruso, or if you just switch KCP and Matthews. Like, you're looking at such different teams there that you're just switching one player per different iteration of this conversation. And yet all of these teams keep getting better, and the matchups keep staying interesting.
God, I hope we stay healthy, and I hope we're as good as I think we are, because this is a monster roster, man. I really hope the season's gonna go as well as I hope it can.
Yeah, it's funny, David, for to give us another topic to potentially talk about. He basically went roster by roster and asked himself how many guys per roster would you be comfortable playing 25 minutes a night, right?
Oh, that's a good framing of it. I like that.
Yeah, and the Lakers had more than any other roster in the NBA. The Lakers, I think, wound up with 9. I'm just going off of memory. See this, David? I actually read your messages. But he goes. If you're looking for a segment or two this week, I just went through all the rosters in the West and looked at who on each roster would you feel comfortable playing over half the game, 25 plus minutes. In other words, they are more of a fit than they are more than a fit or a bit player. I did it for my opening segment today. So he goes, he had the following: the Lakers had 9, Jazz had 8, Pelicans had 7, Clippers 7, maybe 8, Kings had 7, Spurs had 6. But you could see, and I would love to, maybe talk to him about this and see how he defines all of these guys. And I think the only player that might not, fit that bill is probably Gasol, and it's just because of age. Like, that's what's insane. Is he, like, normal seasons he would be one of those players, but we just got to see how the aging process, what impact that has on his game this year.
And I would argue that in some series, the Nuggets in particular, that maybe 24, 25 minutes a night would be justified just to go up against Nikola Jokic. And then other series, he would be less appropriate. And you could say that for other Lakers players. But yeah, by and large, we've got everybody that we added was a significant rotation piece for a playoff team. And all of them, except for Schroeder, was on playoff teams that went beyond the first round. So that's something that, we added a lot of dudes that can really play. Yep.
All right, let's go to the next question here. Comes from this guy, I believe, knows you. So he's Off-Road Dijiak. He calls himself Jim at the very end of it. So he says, give a big sloppy kiss from me. Cheers. And he signs off as Jim. Do you know any Jims that would give you a big sloppy kiss?
I do not.
Well, that's interesting.
My life is odd. Yeah.
All right. So
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate the sentiment.
Hey, Anthony, love the show, especially when Pete and/or Harrison is on. After listening to your case for retiring Dwight's jersey, I have a question. I didn't make the case for Dwight's. I said if they retired it, I wouldn't be upset. Anyway. Does that mean the Lakers should retire Rajon Rondo's number as well? He was a Laker longer than Dwight was and objectively played a bigger role in the finals. He should be a Hall of Famer when he retires, so he seems to fit your criteria. Would love to see Anthony's favorite player immortalized in eternity in the rafters at Staples. Number 9 forever.
I like Jim. I'm more willing to receive this sloppy kiss now. after he roasted you a little bit. Yes.
Do you have Rondo as a Hall of Famer? I don't.
That's a good question. Probably not.
So I'm off the.
If I
I'm
have
off
to,
the snide. I'm off the hook. We're good.
Sure.
Also, if 9 were up in the rafters and it wasn't Nick the Quicks, like if it wasn't Nick Van Exel up there, I would be angry forever. I would never be able to live that down. My
whole my requirement is that they do the Hall of Fame things for the Lakers, right? And so Rondo's Hall of Fame case is mostly with what he did on the Celtics, right? If he is a Hall of Famer, it's for that. So I would say no on that, but I do appreciate his framing and ribbing of you with that.
Yeah, I deserve it. Even though, again, I wasn't saying that Dwight should have his number retired. I was saying that if the Lakers retired it because of the way things went down, that I wouldn't be angry about it.
It's so.
It's also like, doesn't he wear 39? Nobody's ever wearing 39 for the Lakers anyway. It doesn't matter.
Our test had what, 37?
37, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of the whole LeBron and AD switching jerseys potentially next year?
I mean, and this is getting way ahead of ourselves, but if we repeat this year, that's number 5 for LeBron. So if LeBron wears number 6 going into a 3-peat season for the chance to tie MJ, I'm all for that kind of calling your shot. Like, go for it, LeBron. I kind of hope it happens, right? But in general, like numbers are something that are very important to players, right? That's something that. But for me, it's never been a that big of a deal. But I'm not as into, buying jerseys and all of that type of thing. Where do you stand on that?
That's my problem with it. I wouldn't have a problem at all if I didn't care about jerseys and buying one. I want to buy like the city edition of this year. Like I think it's
those
really
are sweet. Those light
jersey.
Blue, yeah, pretty.
And then have you seen the hoodie where it's like a black hoodie and it has like the light blue or the icy blue and white?
Oh no, I haven't.
Oh my god, dude!
It's
Holy
nice.
shit! Oh my goodness. So
cool.
that I'd be able to get because I don't have to worry about jersey numbers. And then on top of that, there's the classic edition, right? The retro edition that they're the royal blue one. So I want both of those jerseys, but I also don't want to buy them and then have those numbers immediately not apply next year.
Sure.
It does help that it's a single season edition type jersey. So it's technically still authentic or it's technically still accurate. Whereas like if you were to try to buy the purple jersey in one of those guys' numbers, it would look kind of funky next year. So I don't know. That's the only reason why I even kind of care.
Does the NBA have some sort of like trade-in program, or is that just if your favorite player gets traded?
Traded, and I think that's only with like American Express or something like that.
Okay.
I think it's one of their promotions, but yeah, not the best like sign for the NBA that like, hey, if the player that you're willing to spend actual money of your own on gets moved, you can get that money back, or you can get a different jersey. That not exactly the message I would want to send if I were the NBA, personally.
Well, I think that's a possible solution to kind of fan discontent over that. But I don't know. It's not a big deal to me, but I know to a lot of people it is.
Yeah, I mean the Lakers don't have to worry about that, right? Because usually if they trade for a player, it's to get a better one back. Whereas like a Bucks fan, oh great, I get to turn in my Giannis jersey, and I no longer get to root for Giannis. This sucks. that would kind of blow. It'd be one thing if somebody bought a Kuzma jersey and then they traded Kuzma as a part of a package for Giannis. You'd be like, all right, we got Giannis as a result of it. But if that Giannis jersey becomes a Kuzma jersey, that is just an extra kick in the balls. Like
it's a different jersey. Yes.
All right, let's take one more second here. There's another question that I wanted to devote basically an entire segment to because it's such an interesting one. It's one I already answered, but I'm interested in Pete's thoughts on it. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
Hey everybody, it's Elaine Welteroth, and I'm hosting a new podcast called Built to Last by American Express, where we will dive deep into the stories, history, and continued legacy of small businesses that shape American culture. Our debut season will focus on Black-owned small businesses that need our support now more than ever. In each episode, we feature the story of a Black business trailblazer that has inspired a modern Black-owned business. First up is Pinky Cole of Atlanta's food truck turned restaurant, Saletti Vegan. We'll also chat with Hanifa Mwemba, the cutting-edge designer behind the Hanifa 3D digital fashion show. Plus, we'll check in with Issa Rae, our modern-day Renaissance woman. We hope that it encourages all of our listeners to support these businesses as well as the Black-owned businesses in your own communities. Tune in for these amazing stories and others on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Support for this podcast comes from AT&T. All right, so to stay connected, AT&T Business has the only wireless plan your teams need. With mobile hotspot data up to 100 gigabytes, they can easily use their phones to connect tablets and laptops to the internet from really virtually wherever work takes them, giving them the power to boost productivity even on the go. Upgrade to AT&T Business and get our best plan with nationwide 5G and 100 gigabytes in mobile hotspot data. Visit att.com/business elite. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, so the question comes from D. Freezio. Hey, Anthony and Pete. I was wondering, since Montrezl, Ibaka, and Tristan Thompson all got the same deal, which one would you have preferred the Lakers had signed? I know Anthony expressed a desire for Ibaka, but I'm wondering what Pete thinks. Would the Lakers have been better off with a more defensive-minded like Thompson over the offensive player in Montrezl? Also, why is it taking so long for the Lakers to fill that one we already figured out. So that first part of the question, Montrezl, Serge, and Thompson, those three players, it kind of reminds me of the power forward situation during the three-peat where you had, such different types of players over that run. But between those three players, who would you have gone with personally?
So I'm a heavy vote for Harrell, and that's not just because we signed him. He wasn't somebody that I thought we would be able to get that would be available for the MLE. I've been a big fan of his since his days at Louisville, but this is my argument, is that I think he's got the highest ceiling of the three, but also the lowest floor. And I think that addressing that lowest floor is important. I know that Serge Ibaka can defend in the playoffs at the highest levels. I know that Tristan Thompson can do that as well. I think Montrezl Harrell can do that, and I think that he was misused, and I think that in a different context, he will be fine as a defender in the playoffs. I'm not saying that he's a great defender. That's not the point that I'm trying to make, but he will certainly be able to stay on the floor. I'm actually more worried about Schroeder's ability to defend deeper in the playoffs than I am with Harrell, but that is just theory. I know that to be true with Thompson. I know that to be true with Ibaka. But what Harrell does well is so much better than the things that Thompson and Ibaka do well, that both guys are solid. They give I think Ibaka will provide a necessary stretch five option for the Clippers. And I think that you can make some argument that he's better for the Clippers than Harrell is. Although we could talk about this more as the season goes on. I talk all the time about the Lakers' ability to put pressure on the front of the rim. I think that's a weakness of the Clippers. And I think that the best guy on their team at doing that just moved across the hall from the Clippers to the Lakers. And Ibaka is not a guy who puts pressure on the rim at this point of his career. And that's going to be important. But Harrell is, I can't wait for Laker fans to start watching him on a day-to-day basis, because he's this really unique combination on offense of will tear the rim down, but hits all of these really clever little floaters and push shots and just has this really great touch that is rare. And I would rather have the weapon who's great at what they do on a team where if he's not appropriate for that series, you just play a different guy more. And we have a Marc Gasol who's a totally different type of player. We have an Anthony Davis who's a different type of player that can play the five than both of those guys. Give me that great weapon that we can unleash rather than the guy who Ibaka and Thompson will be appropriate for just about any series. Harrell might not he will fluctuate more, but his value, like what he does well is just so much better than those other two guys. Give me that guy who was supposed to make 15, 20 million going into free agency this year based on his performance last season, right?
Yeah.
So I think we got a real bargain in Harrell.
That's for sure. I agree with you on that one. I frankly, I think all three of these guys signing for what they signed for is quite the bargain. Maybe Harrell more than most, because Harrell is more capable than either of the other two players of going out and winning you a game by himself.
Yeah, he can dominate a game. Yeah.
Yeah. The other argument I think that really kind of distances, I still am for Ibaka, but more on a this season type. If you're just trying to win this season,
what's your argument for that?
Well, I want somebody. I think I think Thompson's the best defender of the three of them. I have Ibaka as, not too far behind him, and I like Ibaka's ability to space the floor. And like the Lakers' best lineups would have been with Ibaka on the roster, just like their most talented lineups are with AD and Trez. And I think there's much less doubt about Ibaka's fit on both ends of the court with AD than with Trez. And so if you're just building a lineup, between, the five most talented players there, Ibaka and AD can more easily be on the court together than Montrez and AD. Now, that said, and this is what, I just did the preview for the Locked On, for Locked On NBA, I believe we're doing, kind of team by team previews across all of the network. And one of the questions was, what's the biggest question or what's the biggest storyline here for the team that you're covering? And I said that it's the Lakers, it's if AD and Montrez can really fit together on both sides, the team becomes insanely special, right?
That's a great point. Yeah.
My thing with Ibaka is that I have less question about that. So that's where I was. But, all of this said, the fact that Trez, if he does stay with the Lakers, if they can find a way to fit him on their roster moving forward, not only does he obviously improve the team this year, but he extends your window, right? Same goes for Schroeder, where both of those guys are, I believe, 27-ish, which is right around the same kind of age that AD is.
26, but it'll be 27 soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So like all of those guys, you now have a nice window here between those four, between Schroeder, Montrez, AD, and LeBron. If they can find a way to keep all of those guys for the next few years, that's a core that you can go on a nice little run with and still have flexibility to add on the peripheries, or continue to, if you have to re-sign Caruso, or when you have to re-sign Caruso, or you have to re-sign Kuzma, like all of these things, seem to make, a lot of sense there between those few players, whereas Ibaka and even Thompson are more 1 year plug and play type players. And then you're going to have to go and do it all over again next year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that speaks to the point of, higher floor, lower ceiling, the veterans versus a guy like Harrell, who not just this year, but if you can keep him around longer, can be part of a longer title window.
Yeah. So I don't think, like, my preference for Ibaka and the gap between Ibaka and Trez has actually, really, it's gotten a lot more narrow over the course of, since the signings took place. Heading into the offseason, it was a pretty, not significant, but it was a pretty sizable gap between Ibaka and Trez. And now I would say, like, if I think Ibaka is a 10 out of 10 signing, Montrezl Harrell is like a 8.5, which is perfectly fine,
Sure.
And
yeah, no complaints there. You got a really good player for a great value contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing before we get out of here, it's not an iTunes question, but LeBron gave his thoughts on load management last year or yesterday or a couple of days ago. And I was kind of interested, Pete, in your thoughts on, he didn't say that he was definitely going to load manage, but compared to last season when he was asked that question, he almost took offense to the very concept. And this year he was like, well, We did just finish. And I'm kind of curious how you think the Lakers can handle that.
I would rather. So LeBron's a master of in-game load management.
Mm-hmm.
I would, especially early on, I would like to see them sit LeBron and even AD on a somewhat regular basis. I don't know what somewhat regularly means. That's more based on how he's feeling, the schedule that's for the doctors and the people who understand, the physical dynamics of this more. But we've got a good enough team to pick up wins without. We just started with that first question of like, if we split the team in half, right. Like, hey, that's a pretty good 5. That's also a pretty good 5, and it's 2 totally different 5s. Vogel's been talking up THT quite a bit as well. We've got depth. Let's use it. Let's make sure that
K-Cock
LeBron also just signed
a big that you can run out there if you need to.
Absolutely. And LeBron just signed an extension for 2 more years. And we should be thinking not just of this year in that respect, but beyond that. The trick is with this season is that if you just treat the regular season as killing time until the playoffs, you're going to get your ass kicked in the playoffs at some point, right? Even with there is some switch flipping for sure, but I would rather have LeBron on the bench. And then that means THT gets 18 minutes that night, 24 minutes that night. And everybody who's playing and dressed is going as hard as they can and really bringing it. And if you need a night off, especially in a year where the schedule is condensed and there's more back-to-backs, I think you'll see that load management apply not just to LeBron, but we've got the luxury of so many guys where we can have a 9-man rotation and just 2 dudes are resting that night. And so I think we're in a great place to have our cake and eat it too, of LeBron getting the rest that he needs, but still having a great regular season record, positioning ourselves well for the playoffs and all that. I think we can do all of it.
Yeah, I think, for me, one of my favorite aspects of this roster is that LeBron can go and sit on the bench and the basketball that he's going to be watching. Like, it's going to be the best basketball he's ever watched from the bench in his career.
We could have LeBron and AD on the bench, and unlike last year, have a viable lineup out there. Yeah.
Right. Like you could, I was just looking at the things from that previous question. Right. And, you're looking at if LeBron and AD aren't out there, you could go Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma, and either Trez or Morris and Gasol out there. And that's a very good lineup. Like that's a really, fun dynamic lineup. If they want to go small and you can throw Trez out there as like the small ball 5 or Markieff Morris as, the de facto small ball 5, and you can have both those guys out there. Like it's just, I'm actually kind of like, there are times where I'm not normally very jealous of NBA coaches because like they have to make really tough calls and they always hear it the loudest if things don't go in the way that the fans expect.
Right.
I think Major League Baseball, like those managers, I think have it the worst because those decisions happen so slowly that you can really see it there.
You have a lot of time to talk about, like when they took out Blake Snell, although I still, that's still.
Well, I mean, it was a dumb call. And then but like for NBA coaches though, it's so easy to just say like, why wasn't that guy playing there? And ignore all of football is tougher, right? Football is like, why did you run that play? Or why did you, but like the substitution patterns are a lot more erratic in football than they are in basketball. And so, normally I'm not too jealous of NBA coaches, but I look at this roster and I'm like legit jealous that Frank Vogel has all of these toys to play with. Like I can't imagine how all of the coaches across the NBA are looking at Vogel right now and saying like, you lucky Emma. Like how when we were kids and there was always that toy. So for me growing up, it was Power Rangers. And for some reason, the kid down the street, his name is Zach, always had the coolest Power Rangers. And every Christmas and every like birthday, I would always look at him, you lucky MF. And I'm sure every single coach is looking at Vogel that exact same way because of that, because of that stuff. I would say though, to get back to wrap up this topic and the last kind of thing I would add to it, I would prefer like if they are going to rest LeBron and if they are going to rest AD and take them completely out of the lineup, I would prefer to avoid games where both of those guys are out altogether. I would like to have, AD sit on one night and then LeBron sit on another night and then have them both out there together. I just think if you the team becomes too different to really work on anything when both those guys aren't in the lineup at all.
I mean, I think that there's some value in working on the lineup without either of them, like in general.
You can do that, but for shorter stretches. I just think like you're running up against the point where it becomes too different a game,
That's fair.
to really learn anything from.
I too want LeBron James and or Anthony Davis to play basketball games for the Lakers. So you will not get me to argue too hard against that. Yes.
But you come here for the hard hitting analysis. So
that's right. We're here for you. We got you.
Podcast Network. Yep. That's where we're going to end it though. For this episode of Locked On Lakers, like I said a second ago, so I'm going to have a guest for tomorrow's show. To get us ready for the preseason and all of that good stuff. And then Pete and I will be back to kick off the player preview series that we're going to run basically throughout the preseason, as well as, previewing and reacting to games and all of that as we get ready for Christmas, which is we're recording this on the 8th. We are 17 days away from, or no, I guess we're 14 days away from 2 weeks. The math just doesn't make any sense in my mind. It's perfectly 2020 for us to know like when this thing is happening and for our brain to just not process that time is actually going to take us there. But we are 2 weeks away from the Lakers kicking off their 2020-2021 season. My brain doesn't work right. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. Talk to you tomorrow.
Hey LA sports fans, this is Sarah Avampato, host of the Locked On Los Angeles Kings podcast, which, if you ask me, is exactly the podcast you should be listening to next. I know it's been a couple years since the Kings have been really good, but things are looking up for the team who has one of the best groups of prospects in the entire NHL. Tune into Locked On Kings as I bring you up to speed on the players who are going to usher in a new era for the Los Angeles Kings. Subscribe now to Locked On Los Angeles Kings, available wherever you get your podcasts.
You've heard NBA All-Stars on Rejecting the Screen. You've heard Hall of Fame journalists on Rejecting the Screen. You've heard legendary stories for the first time on Rejecting the Screen.
He's Noah Kozlov, and I'm Adam Stanko. Join us by subscribing to Rejecting the Screen so that you always have all three sides of the story. Their side, our side, and the truth.